Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me. My name is Emmanuelle Galland, and I'm going to share with you the 10 nutrition tips to spring into your best self, or otherwise said, how to shed your winter coat naturally without dieting. On your control panel, you'll be able to raise your hand if you have any questions, and I'd like to go ahead and ask you whether you can hear me right now. Could someone raise their hand if they can hear me? Fantastic. Thank you very much. You also have a chat function that you can use to ask me questions. I'll try to keep up with those questions and multitask, reading the control panel and present. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm anticipating this presentation will be between 30 and 45 minutes. I'd like to leave you time to ask questions within that time frame. Very briefly, for those who do not know me, I'd like to share with you my letters and my story so you can understand why I wanted to share this knowledge with you tonight. By background, I'm an MBA, and I've done a long career in corporate America, primarily in the field of change management consulting. I was serving health industries, hospitals, insurance companies, biotechs, pharmaceutical companies, and helping them develop their businesses and help more people thrive. My marrying change management and my knowledge of the health industries really helped me create healthy projects for the customers that I was serving. In parallel, since college, I've been a student of fitness and nutrition, and I earned several degrees in the US. I'm a board-certified holistic health and nutrition coach, also certified as a personal trainer with the National Academy of Sports Medicine. I do teach a lot of group fitness classes every week, and several of you on the phone today have been exercising with me in the past. And then while I was at corporate America, at the same time as I was, teaching fitness classes, and I developed my business, Koji Fitness, which is a wellness company targeting helping busy professionals find a healthy balance. And it's interesting how the course of a career usually is influenced by your personal story. When I turned 30 years old, I actually burnt out working in corporate America. I was doing too many things, and I didn't really have my healthy routine dialed down. I was doing a lot of things well, but I was also doing a lot of things not very well, eating, processed foods when I was on the road, sleeping too little, exercising too much. And so eventually that caught up with me. I had to take a leave of absence. I developed an autoimmune disorder called Graves' disease, which is a thyroid disease. And I went back to the drawing board and tried to understand what I had to change in my diet and in my lifestyle to regain my health. So this is what I did, and I developed a methodology called goal-directed nutrition, which really helps align your diet and your lifestyle behind your life goals to help you integrate everything and actually project success or achieve success in your life based on a strong foundation of health. I published my ideas in Feeding Success, a nutrition blueprint for busy professionals last year, and I'm helping people be healthier. One of the big things that helped me recover from my autoimmune disorder about 7 years ago was learning to live in accordance with the seasons. I discovered and really investigated Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine back then. I went, to different schools that were teaching Ayurveda. I went to the National Institute of Ayurveda, upstate New York, and I just did different panchakarma, and I really learned how to calm down my nature, or balance my nature by abiding by the rules of the season, which Ayurveda is very strong on. And this presentation today is actually going to help you understand that for yourself. My intention today is really to inspire you to follow nature's way to manifest vibrant health without deprivation and dieting. And you can be your best self with my 10 nutrition tips. That's really what I intend to do today. And so you'll hear me talk about Ayurveda, which is a traditional Indian, wisdom medicine system, and introduce some new concepts that will really make sense to you because it's very much common sense. But in our society where all kinds of foods and lifestyles are available at any time, it's very hard to tune in with what the season really provides and what our body needs. So this is what I would like to leave you with today. Is at the end of this presentation, you'll just have hopefully a few aha moments and things will make sense, and you'll actually start step by step changing your way to be more in phase with spring and therefore enable your body to find its spring balance and readjust, itself if it's out of balance naturally. So the biggest weather transition of the year, really, I think, is the spring. Of course, there's multiple seasons, 3 or 4, depending on where we live. Sometimes less than that, but, in New York, we really have 4 seasons. But in terms of harvest and food available, we really have 3 seasons, right? The spring, the summer, and then there's the fall harvest. And in the winter, we just eat whatever we harvested in the fall, right? So the spring is really where everything comes back to life. And what's interesting with the spring is the weather. It's a very unstable weather. It's kind of a transition out of the winter, so it's still cold on some days, but it's also very rainy. It's very heavy, prone to congestion. There's a lot of mud. And so the interesting thing with the spring season is that the food available in the spring is actually the antidote to a wet, cold, rainy, muddy weather. And so when you start eating the foods of the season, your body naturally can fight, excess of congestion or excess of mucus, prevent allergies for the spring, right? And the same thing in the summer, the weather is extremely hot. The propensity is to dehydrate, to dry out, to be prone to inflammation, and the foods available in the summer are foods that are very cooling, right, offsetting that heating effect. And then in the fall, carrying into the winter, the foods that are available to us are heavier, richer, warmer, in order to enable our body to fight the cold and dry and windy winter, right? So the seasonal foods are the season's weather antidote. The spring is warm, cold at times, but we're getting towards warm. It's very liquid, wet, rainy, and it's soft, right? There's a lot of, unlike the winter, which is very hard and dry, the spring is warm and soft. And as a result of that weather, typically the ailment of the springs are occurrence of colds, sinus congestions, and allergies. And if you eat the way that I'm going to introduce to you, you actually will be able to use those foods as your antidote to prevent colds, sinus congestions, and significantly reduce allergies. And I have a lot of success stories here of people who have followed that diet that I've been working with and who have stopped taking allergy medications. So very rapidly, I wanted to give you an overview of the 10 tips, and then I'll go through them. The first one is to introduce a different type of food in your diet, more pungent, bitter, and astringent food, the spring food, and we'll talk about what those are. And then you're going to start retiring the foods from the other season, from the winter. The sweet foods, the salty food, and the sour foods of the winter have to gradually get out of your diet if you want to be healthy in the spring. Avoid sugar. Alternate between heavier and lighter fares based on the weather, right? There's a transition period happening in April, so I'll tell you what to eat when you feel that you need something warmer for the cold spring days, and I'll tell you what to eat when you need to have something lighter. In the spring, we eat smaller portions of food compared to the winter, and I'll speak about that. I introduced the diuretic spring teas. Dandelion is one of my favorite, but there are many others, and I'll share that with you. And then there's 4 lifestyle advice that I'd like to give you to spring into your best body. One is to wake up earlier in the spring, participate in outdoor activities and enjoy nature, keep cool as the weather heats up in late spring. So I'm going to help you with this. And then finally, we're going to talk cleansing, fasting, and why spring is typically a good time to do it. And what does it mean, and what are the different types of ways that you could introduce a fast or a cleanse in your life. Sounds good? Raise your hand. Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, moving on. Tip number 1, introduce the spring foods gradually. So in the spring, the foods that are really important are the bitter, pungent, and astringent foods. And the reason for that is that naturally they boost your liver function. And your liver is your number 1 fat loss organ. So if you have a healthy liver, you'll be able to lose weight a lot faster than if you have a worn out liver. Those foods also scrub the villi of excess mucus and toxins to enable your body right now to just cleanse itself naturally. Boost the immune system. A lot of those foods actually feed the microbia in your body, and the spring is a moment where the microbia is changing. You know that we now know that we're alive because of all of the microbes that we have. We have more microbes on our body and inside our body than we have cells. And these microbes mutate throughout the year to help us perform different functions. What's really interesting is that those microbes in the winter, they actually help us build more fat, they help us stay warm, they have, huge influence in our immune system. And so in the spring, those microbia is going to mutate, it's going to start changing. It will be different types of bacteria. And those are actually the ones that will help you metabolize fat better. They will help you scrub your villi. They will help you boost your immune system. They're going to help you clear congestion. So it's really important to feed them the food that will enable them to transform. And then finally, building this intestinal flora. So what are those foods? So I'm going to go over them. So sprouts and roots like dandelion, turmeric, ginger, those are the first things that come out of the earth in early spring, so right now. The microgreens come next, and the microgreens are really, really important to integrate in your diet. You can find them at the farmers markets and maybe in the health food stores. There's a study that I actually shared with you in my newsletter today, whereby the leaves of the microgreens are a lot more potent in terms of nutrition than the mature leaf. So there was this example about a red leaf, a microgreen, red cabbage leaf, which had 69 times more the content of vitamin K as the mature leaf and 6 times the vitamin C. It's pretty big, right? So when you make a salad, just integrate some sprouts, some microgreens, and some mature lettuce as you find them. Other vegetables that are off-season, in addition to those root vegetables, are broccoli, mushrooms, celery, kale. Kale is actually a transition. It's winter vegetables and early spring vegetables. And then all of the, dandelions green, collard greens, mustard greens, all of those bitter and astringent greens. You do need to cook your greens, right? When you cook your greens, they actually have a better effect on your bile. They're unable to bind to this bile and help you metabolize the fat a lot easier out of your body. The only greens that you wouldn't cook would be, of course, the sprouts and the microgreens. Those would be raw. But every other greens, I recommend that you cook them for maximum effect. There are also some fruit that are available in the spring, but that's later. So if we're looking at how the spring is going to evolve, so it starts with those roots and it's going to move into the microgreens and the lettuces, and then it's going to move on to berries, come May and June, the strawberries towards the end. So just start to integrate some of those fruit. Mango is a spring fruit as well. Avocado is a spring fruit. It's my favorite one. I'm just so happy that it's a spring one. So very excited about that. Okay. Now, one last thing I wanted to say about this is that the pungent, bitter, and astringent taste is severely lacking from the American diet. So that may be something you're not very, used to eating. So just integrate it at every meal, just a little bit of every meal, and just grow step by step used to those foods. Tip number 2, retire the winter foods gradually. So the winter foods are those that are aggravating for the season. So if you keep eating those foods in the spring, you're not going to feel your best. So you have to part with, the heavy sweet, salty, and sour flavor. So the sour typically is, I'm thinking about dairy. The first thing that comes to mind when you think about sour, it's yogurt, milk, cheese. Those are sour food in Ayurveda. Salty foods and then sweet foods. You want to get rid of those. And the reason for that is that they're going to create more mucus in your body, which is going to lead to congestion. It's going to aggravate allergies. It's going to make you feel heavy. We all know that salt increases water retention, and the spring is a very wet, liquid month. So you do not want to have any of that retention. On the contrary, you want to use those pungent, astringent taste to get rid of the excess water in your body. And then those sweet and salty and sour foods promote fat accumulation, especially sweet. We know that sugar is what makes us fat. It's not necessarily fat that makes us fat. It's sweet and sugar and excess heavy, greasy food, right? So reduce the portions of rice, grains, pasta, and bread. If you were going to go for a grain, there's one grain that's actually pretty good for the wet spring, and it's corn. Corn is one of the driest grain. And so it would make sense to have the crunchy tortilla chips, non-GMO tortilla chips in the spring, or to have, polenta or some kind of corn, added popcorn or anything that you'd like to add. Just go ahead in the spring. Rice is actually a wet grain. It's more for the warmer weather of this end of the summer. And then wheat, pasta, bread, those are more very, very warming for the winter. They're heavier grains. They have gluten in them, so they actually increase mucus inside and stickiness inside your gut. And you're trying to actually lighten up your gut. So if you can part during the spring, the 3 months of the spring, and have no more bread or no more pasta, no more heavy glutinous grain, and choose the lighter one like, corn, amaranth, quinoa, millet, you would be in a much better shape. And it's a lifestyle change. Reduce your intake of dairy to limit sourness or cream, heavy cream. So these are the 2 recommendations I would have. And what's interesting with dairy is that in the spring, the dairy is actually particularly rich because the calf, are born. And so the milk should be kept for the animals. It should not be fed to humans. Very high in, the hormones that those animals are giving their little babies. And it's very, very, very rich and creamy. So not for human consumption. So stay clear of dairy if you can. It's more of a winter food. I have some questions coming in. If you're really, into dairy and you're thinking about not having it is really too much of a torture, then choose yogurt and choose goat's milk or goat cheese in moderation. And then there's other milk that you can be using, like nut milk, almond milk, coconut milk, etc. In moderation. Nuts, too many nuts in the spring is not either a really good idea because they're too moist, too heavy, and too oily. So nuts are really a food of the winter. It promotes heat in your body. Here we want to try to lose excess fat, excess heat, and we want to try to just have a lighter, less heavy feeling in our body. So when it comes to nuts, avoid the cashews and just go maybe for something a little lighter like sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds. Those would be better choices for the spring, or chia seeds, the tiny little seeds, just almonds, sesame, and peanuts and pine nuts and walnuts and cashews. Those are more of a winter food. Great questions, everybody. Okay, step number 3, avoid sugar. This is, you know that it's really big now, mainstream knowledge that sugar is really what's causing us to be sick, to be obese, to, have issues with diabetes and inflammation and heart disease. And, it's an overall trigger for inflammation throughout your body. And we know that the sweet taste is really not something that you want to have in the spring. You're looking for bitter, astringent, and pungent. So brown sugar, raw sugar, cane juice extract, beet sugar, I've listed all of those that you want to look for, and just avoid those. Read labels. If you wanted to use a sweetener for your tea or something like that, just go ahead and use raw honey in small quantity, date sugar, maple syrup, brown syrup, molasses, coconut syrup, all of those would actually, or coconut saft it's called. Agave, green leaf stevia, not the stevia you find at Whole Foods, not the white stevia and not the stevia drops. Those are processed. The green leaf stevia, and you can only find it online, by the way. Email me if you want to find the source that I provide for myself. But it would be bright green. It would actually be the actual leaf that's been crushed. Lucuma is an amazing sweetener. And of course, fresh fruit like the strawberry. So right now we have talked about those first 3 tips are really huge, right? Can you let go of wheat and bread and pasta? Can you let go of sugars, refined sugars? And can you add more pungent, bitter, and astringent taste and foods in your diet on a daily basis? Here's another big one. Adapt your meals to the weather. In the spring, the cravings are a little bit all over the place, depending on what the weather is like. I know that in my household, when it starts raining, we generally rush on the tortilla chips and, non-GMO blue corn tortilla chips. And that's really because we need something that's very drying. Like our body is trying to offset the rainy weather by making you eat drying foods like corn, let's say, right? But then so when it's cold and rainy, look for warmer or heavier food or drier food. The best way to go if you really want to feel your best self is warm soups or stews. Add ginger, add turmeric root. They're of season. You can use cooked root vegetables. Carrot is the root of the spring. There is some burdock as well available. And those are more like, reminiscent of the winter foods, those big stews. And then when it comes warmer and sunnier, then choose lighter fare. So go ahead and go have some spinach salads, add some sprouts, some microgreens. You can have a light veggie broth, cooked veggies. Choose lighter proteins, right? So if you're going to go for animal protein, an egg is a good choice, or light grilled fish, or light grilled chicken. Meat, red meat, is more of a winter food. Red meat specifically is damp. When you're looking at food energetics, it creates dampness in your body. The spring is very damp. You don't need more dampness. So you reserve that for the winter, which is a dry month, right? And chicken, energetically, is actually a dry food. It has a dry energy to it. So watch the weather forecast and adapt your meals accordingly. Eat smaller portion. So in the winter, you may have experienced this. The hunger is through the roof, like you're always hungry. It seems like you're eating and you just need to keep eating and eating. You can never stop. There's no bottom, really. But come the spring, naturally, you may have noticed that you're less hungry. Just don't be alarmed. This is normal, right? Your appetite may actually go by half, and you're not going to starve. It's just a natural process. Your hunger will go down, and your cravings are going to go down, or they will actually shift. I know that I'm craving those new tastes. I'm craving bitter like crazy. So the reason for this is that in the spring, and that's contingent about the transformation being let happen in your body, right, that you're eating the right food, then you're going to have a natural fat metabolism boost, right? So the hunger goes down and your body is going to start metabolizing its own winter reserves. That's why your hunger goes down naturally. Your body is also going to start to detox and clean your villi, get rid of mucus, get rid of toxins, just naturally. You don't have to do anything. You just have to feed yourself properly. And you're going to start losing this extra winter weight, right? So if you need to skip dinner because you're not hungry or have half your meal at lunchtime, don't worry. This is normal. Take this opportunity to learn or relearn portion control. Quickly checking questions that are coming here. Let's see. Okay. Christine, have I defined microgreen enough for you? Raise your hand if I have. Yep. The microgreens are the very first growth of a lettuce. So it's going to be a baby, you know, red lettuce, a baby, you know, romaine. So it's going to be the first little greens that you'll see. You can find them usually in bulk at the farmer's market. You'll see it says microgreens. And then I think I've answered in terms of animal protein, but what no animal protein do we eat? So in the spring, peas are off season, right? So snap peas, green peas, sweet peas, beans are amazing. Especially what's amazing with beans as a non-animal protein for the spring is that they have a drying quality. So most legumes are drying on the body. So they're perfect for the wet spring season. So here are some that I really like. I like the mung beans a lot. The adzuki beans, they're tiny beans from Japan. They actually use sweet in taste, not too much. Black beans, lentils, pinto beans, red beans, and then tofu, right? Soybean would be a non-animal protein that you can use for the spring. Great questions, everybody. Okay, so remember that we talked about what comes first in the harvest season for the spring, and these were the roots. So here are root veggies that are great teas that you can actually indulge in. So ginger, amazing for the digestion, creates, you know, a slight warming and activate the circulation in your body, which will help, you know, your lymphatic system move, and therefore your body eliminate fat more effectively. Turmeric, burdock root, dandelion root, Oregon grape and golden seal. I don't know if you knew what they looked like. So Oregon grape and golden seal. The top picture is actually Oregon grape, right? That's kind of like the bark of the tree. And then you can find it's just, you know, powdered into a tea. And then golden seal is the picture at the bottom. So all of those here are really spring teas. I recommend that you pick one or two and see. I love dandelion and burdock. That might go to, and ginger usually as a digestive, you know, after my lunch. And I use turmeric almost everywhere. And you can find turmeric root. You can actually grow turmeric root as well. Google it. Dandelion, actually something funny. The word in French for dandelion is pissenlit, which means pee in bed, literally, pee in bed. So, hey, do you want to drink some pee in bed today? So as soon as you drink a cup of dandelion, you're going to pee for the next 3 hours. So just be warned that if you want to sip this, just make sure you're in the office with a bathroom nearby because it's very diuretic tea. It tastes delicious, but it's very potent. Okay, so these were the main phases for the food. I just wanted to go over a few more tips to spring into your best, right? The first thing is wake up earlier. There's a lot more life energy in the spring, right? The days are a lot longer. Wake up earlier, wake up at sunrise. In Ayurveda, we recommend that you do wake up at sunrise and, you know, you do your meditation or you do your reading or chanting or whatever makes you feel good in the morning. Ayurveda also recommend no naps during the day in the spring. So you wake up earlier, you just go on longer, you don't eat as much because you're not as hungry, but you're going to have a lot more lightness and energy throughout the day. So do practice that and try it out for a week. It's really amazing. The two pictures that I chose here are from where I grew up. I grew up on the Bay of Arcachon, which is in the southwest of France, near Bordeaux. And this is sunrise, two pictures at sunrise. It's a beautiful bay. And so anyway, so you can see a bit where I grew up. The next thing is participate in outdoors activities. The best way to be able to wake up early and to set your internal clock on the spring is to actually come into contact with nature. Go out. If you stay in as you've been all winter, your body will have no clue the spring is here. So the more you'll be exposed to natural light, put your hands in the dirt, garden, or just, even garden, on your balcony. New York City, there's not really any gardens unless you go to the park, but just go ahead and start getting your hands in the dirt, go out for walks, stop at the subway before, but the more light you'll have, the more energy you'll feel, the less hungry you'll be, and your body will naturally get adjusted to the rhythm of the spring. Some outdoor activities that are ideal for the spring and for people who feel heavy in the spring, the spring body type, as we call it in Ayurveda, the Kapha body type, it's high-intensity exercise. That's for the spring, right? So aerobic, any sports teams like, basketball, football, soccer, jogging, bicycling. It's the beginning also for rock climbing. So if you want to try something new, I just started to rock climb. It's a lot of fun. I had never done it before. Running, rowing, tennis, yoga. So just go ahead and start doing those activities. Pick one, a new one. It will really help you feel your best. And it's very much of season. Number 9. Keep cool as the weather warms up. So as the weather warms up, the tendency to want to go for those sweet drinks, those margaritas, or go for ice cream, or any kind of like fresh or freshening, sweet, filled with sugar beverage is just not a good idea. So the spring has actually planned that. There are some berries, like strawberries, and then later on in the spring you'll have the other berries, at transition with July. You'll have, the blueberries and the raspberries, etc. But you also have mangoes, you have avocados, you have cucumbers. So there's a lot of additional fares that you can use to cool yourself off. The leafy greens are very cooling. They're filled with water, or microgreen and sprouts, very much so. One of my favorite greens is watercress. Now, watercress is like spring, and it grows on the water. It's like in the canals or little ponds or the lakes. So it's a very watery green that will help you offset heat. Finally, I wanted to talk about cleanse or fast. It's one of my favorite topics because that's what I went through to regain my health. Sometimes it's hard to do micro changes step by step. You need to kind of start with a clean slate once in a while. And what's interesting with cleansing and Ayurveda is that there's different types of fasting, really. And the intention of fasting is multiple. One is to help you stay out of your way and let your body do what its repair and its work to rebuild itself without you being in the way and intervening. So you basically lower the amount of food you're eating, or you stop eating entirely and you let your body work without giving him digestion work to do. It rests your digestive system, which enables your body to speed up the metabolism, right? It's going to start eating its own reserves. It promotes weight loss that way. It's interestingly, research shows that it improves insulin sensitivity. So if you have some blood sugar issues, that actually may help you stabilize that or considerably improve your condition. It promotes a healthy bowel movement. A cleanse that goes well promotes regular bowel movements. There would be no gas and no bloating, as a result of your cleanse. A lot of cultures believe that fasting improves longevity. In fact, most religions do have fasting as one of their recommendations. It boosts your immune system, and that was really fascinating. I've read several studies that were showing that if you were giving a complete fast to somebody who had an autoimmune disease, and I had an autoimmune disorder, who were having very, very significant deficiency in their immune system, and you were making them fast of no more food and very little water, their white cells count would just explode. It's like the immune system is resetting itself from scratch. It was incredibly fascinating, and I kept the study, so if you want to have a look at it, just email me. It just was fascinating. And I'll explain how maybe I snapped out of my autoimmune disorder. I did fast for about a week. It actually improves your hunger and your eating patterns, right? You'll have a healthy relationship with food and portions. You'll know when you're really hungry as opposed to just having an appetite. So there'll be a difference between toxic hunger and real hunger as a result of a cleanse. You really learn when it is that you need to really eat versus when you want to eat but you don't really need to eat. So it helps you reduce that binge eating. So the study shows that it improves brain function, it improves mental clarity, and then what I love about it is that it makes your skin look beautiful. So if you have acne issues or you have, patches of skin or redness or dryness, it actually helps you improve that. If you're a woman and you have some cellulite that you want to get rid of, fasting and cleansing also helps with this. So for all of those reasons, spring is a good time to do it because your hunger level are naturally lower. Your body is resetting. It's shedding fat. It's, getting lighter. The foods are becoming a lot lighter. So it's just a nice time to do it. You don't want to cleanse or fast in the winter. You don't want to do that in December, January, February when those months are so terrible and you need to eat a lot. But now is the time to do it. And there's different ways to fast, right? Some people do intermittent fasting. So they would have maybe every Friday they fast. Or maybe a few days a month, 3 days a month, they go on a juice cleanse. So there's different ways to do it. From an Ayurveda standpoint, Ayurveda does not recommend long-term fasting. Like infrequent and long-term fasting is not something they recommend. They favor regular short-term fasting, like 2 or 3 times a year, short amount of time, a few days to 10 days. Because they don't want to deplete your body, basically. They want to rebuild your body. The way that I do it, I have something called the Spring Gourmet Detox, so that's my little introduction of my program, but that's really what I've been doing for myself, and I've been doing it for a long time, and then little by little, I started to have people follow me with it. My principle is to eat, but to eat lightly, and to start with a liquid cleanse. So by eating smoothies or juices, I give high nutrition to my body, vitamins and minerals, but I minimize the digestion effort. So my body doesn't spend much time digesting, it spends time healing, right, repairing, getting stronger. And then moving out, transitioning slowly from a mix of liquid and solid food, so to start rebuilding what Ayurveda call the Ani, which is your digestive fire. Right, so you went from a calm digestive system and now you're introducing a bit more solid food and you can feel that fire in your gut. You know that your intestines are clean, they're working well, the hormones are working normally, your liver is strong, your gallbladder is strong, the bile is flowing, like you feel that it's a nice machine. And then towards the end of my 10 days, I go back to solid food. I may have a shake here and there if I feel like it, but I'm back into a normal diet. And it's a plant-based diet. So I would leave you eating primarily vegan foods, and then I'll help you introduce back eggs, chicken, fish if you are not vegan, or if you're vegetarian. I would stay clear of dairy. I'll introduce you to other types of milk because I will follow the rules of the spring. No sour foods. And then in terms of grain, it will be limited. We'll have very limited grains. We'll have a little bit of corn and maybe a little bit of quinoa, but that will be just it. So during a cleanse, typically I'll teach you how to make smoothies. I'll teach you how to make recipes for 7 days after the smoothies. I'll give you meal plans, shopping list, recipes. I've really streamlined it and made the delicious recipes easy to make, and you can prepare them in advance. So I'll teach you, for instance, how to make mason jar salads. What's amazing about mason jar salads, you can make them 4 days in advance. And you can make different ones, and they're just there in your fridge waiting for you to pick them up and just add a delicious dressing to them. I'll teach you how to make a 3-day smoothie cleanse on your own at home. You make it once and you drink it for 3 days. I'll help you, educate you every day with an email support. And because I'm a fitness professional and I spent a lot of time this year really honing new skills in fitness and helping people understand what an integrative exercise program is, I'm going to put together a 10-day exercise program for you with some little videos. It's going to start very mellow the first 3 days during the smoothies. It's going to be more about mobility and flexibility, and as we ramp up to the next 7 days, you'll have more food, then we'll go a bit more intense, and at the end we'll be back to a full normal regular schedule. But I'll teach you flexibility training, balance training, strength training, cardio, so different skills and balance, different skills that will really make you be like that supple leopard, very strong and very flexible and just beautiful. And then I have a guest. Her name is Anne Kohler, and she's going to facilitate a workshop called Tap Into Your Happiness. Whatever the emotions you have and however easy or hard your life is, you can always get more happiness. And her life's work is really to help people find the happiness even underneath anger, underneath disappointment, underneath sadness, underneath anything. And if you're very joyful, you can actually even expand that joy beyond what you thought was possible. So I'll actually introduce you to this early on during the program. Voila. So that's what I had in mind here. This is actually starting. I had a question here coming up, April 13th, but the webinar to kick off the detox is on the 10th, so it's Friday next week. You can find information on my website at gojifitness.com about the detox if you want to join us. I would like to also invite you to a 30-minute detox readiness consultation with me if that's something that you're interested in, but you want to know more. Write down the timetrait.com address right here. It will give you direct access into my Google Calendar, and I've secured some time for us to talk over the next 7 days so that you can see whether or not that's something you'd like to do. A few of you are actually going to race half marathon during the detox, so a few people already will need to be having a modification plan. They might not have the 3 days of smoothies, but they'll have things that can help them recover from their long runs. With this, I'm going to pause and ask if there is any questions. Simply raise your hand if you have a question for me, and I will unmute you. Okay, where on the website? I'm getting that question. Where on the website? Let's see. So this is my website, gojifitness.com, and if you scroll down, you'll have an event, April 13th. Just click here and then you'll get to that page, which is the spring detox, and you can enroll right there. Right, that's that easy. I'm going to maybe go back to the summary slide so you can see what my top 10s were, if you want to write them down. What time should we stop eating? At night in the spring. Typically, if we follow Ayurveda, it's 3 hours before bedtime, right? In Ayurveda, dinner is more like supper. The biggest meal in Ayurveda is the lunchtime meal because that's where your digestive fire is the strongest. So you have a really good breakfast and you have a really good lunch, and then you have a little dinner, like a supper, just to hold you over. And I'm going to spend a month in India in August, where I'll be living and breathing, the Ayurveda principles with, monks. And we only eat twice a day when I'll be there. We'll eat breakfast and then we'll eat lunch, and there'll be nothing until the next breakfast. Yes, you can still exercise during the first 3 days of the detox. You want to exercise moderately to help the lymph circulate, but you don't want to work so hard that your body would start focusing on repairing your muscles or growing your muscle instead of detoxing. So it's kind of a balance. So I would say do a restorative kind of exercise, like a restorative aqua cycling class or a very mellow hatha yoga practice, or your own practice at home, walking your dog for 20 minutes, something that makes you feel like you'll have a healthy bowel movement, you'll move your body, but you won't feel like you need a recovery. What time do you start eating? I'm getting that question now. Typically, following Ayurveda principle, it's within an hour of waking up. And I will promote during the detox. So during the detox, which will be interesting, I'll introduce you new food and new recipes, but also look at how to improve our lifestyle. During a detox, typically you want to have a 12-hour fast overnight, right? So you want to make sure that between your dinner and your breakfast, you have 12 hours of nothing, so that your body doesn't spend the night digesting, but instead spends the night repairing. You guys have great questions. If I choose to drink, what is the best spring alcohol? Beer? It's bitter, right? I don't know. It's a great question. There's no guidelines in Ayurveda about alcohol, so I'll just say, if I go by other guidelines, like the Harvard Nutrition School, for instance, the guideline was interesting about alcohol, that nurse study that you may have heard of. It's the biggest study that spans 4 generations of nurses that worked in the hospital there. They found that women who drink alcohol before menopause, any kind of alcohol, it didn't matter what, it actually increases their risk of heart disease. After menopause, it didn't. Men, it doesn't matter. Men could drink 1 to 2 glasses of alcohol a day. Whatever alcohol actually didn't, the study didn't show that vodka was worse than wine or wine better than vodka. It was just alcohol. There was no, in fact, no side effect or negative effect towards heart attack. It actually had a tendency to protect them against heart attack. That's all I can tell about alcohol. Okay. Breakfast has to be before noon, yes, because breakfast. So it has to be in the morning when you wake up. Yes, and then you would have lunch at noon. Lunch is between noon and 2. That's when your digestive fire is the most efficient, and then after 2 o'clock, the digestive fire goes down. So you would not absorb as much nutrition in what you're eating. And then in addition to that, your gut is a little congested. I mean, there's a lot of the foods, that's still residual foods that is from your breakfast and your lunch, so it's harder to absorb nutrition through your villi as well. Okay, these were great questions. It makes me so happy to have you on this phone. I know it's late, but I love sharing this information, and I'll keep doing this. I wanted to thank you so much for being on my newsletter. You're special to me, and I wanted to go beyond and share this with you. If you have any topics that you'd like me to do a webinar on or write a Q&A Wednesday on, please don't hesitate. Email me, emma@gojifitness.com. I'm really here for you. I'm doing what I love. This is what I'm meant to be doing. I hope that I'll be welcoming you to my event, the spring detox. There is sometimes one in the summer. There may or may not be this year because of my trip to India, but there definitely will be one in the fall as well. And in the fall, it's a different kind of food. In the spring, we're doing a spring diet. I'm asking a last question that I'm going to take. It's a good question. Do you eat snacks throughout the day? So I'm asking, during the detox, after the smoothie day, you'll have 6 smoothies, right? So you have 1 every 2 hours. When we move on to solid food, I'll give you the choice. You could have 3 meals a day, or you could have 5 meals a day. So you'll have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and an option for a snack mid-morning and an option for snack mid-afternoon. I believe that there is not one way to eat, right? Some people need to eat more frequently because that's just the way that it works for them, and it's totally fine. So we'll just respect the spring foods, and I'll show you what to eat as snacks during the spring. You know, I eat 3 times a day. That's the way I was brought up in France. If I'm going to have, you know, a very long afternoon with a lot of exercise that I teach, I may have, you know, a banana midday, or I may have an apple or a kiwi. Today I had a kiwi. I taught 4 hours of fitness. I needed a kiwi. But that's me, right? And that may not be you. So yes to snacks, even during the detox. I will just teach you how to make sure you're eating out of hunger and not toxic hunger or just, you know, cultural appetite or boredom or whatever. Where do you find the info on the detox? It's going to be on my website, or you can email me. So here is my website information. Just email me as well if you want to. Emma@gojifitness.com. You can register until the 10th, hopefully before the 10th, so that you can assist to the kickoff. There'll be 2 webinars, one at the beginning on the 10th and then one at the end. And then throughout the event, I'll be in touch with you every day, and there'll be also a private Facebook page where everybody can start sharing their questions or share their pictures of food, which is always really fun. And then Anne Koller will do also a presentation for you. I hope you really enjoyed that and you learned something new, that you wrote down those top 10 steps, and maybe take one step now and see how that works for you. The body is incredibly resilient. Just 1 year change can have a drastic impact on your life. And if you were wondering what change to make, it's easier to add the good foods rather than remove the bad foods. So that's another big thing with me. I believe in adding and crowding out the bad rather than removing the bad and you know, depriving yourself. So if you add those pungent and astringent and bitter taste every meal, there'll be a lot less room for the other foods, right? You'll eat less of the rest, and so de facto you'll feel a lot more balanced. Okay. With this, I'm going to close this webinar. If you have any other questions, do not hesitate to email me, and I'm serious about offering you a consultation with me. Do take the advantage, and I'm looking forward to supporting you and having a great spring in your company. Have a good evening. Sleep well. Bye-bye.